YouTube Ozzico and the Godows is back. NFC North record predictions for you guys today. Going through every single division, and our Twitter subscribers will be getting best and worst case record predictions as well, so you kind of see the range. Check out our content on our channel. We've been doing some YouTube shorts as well. And then definitely more to come. Can't wait for our in-season content. But let's get started on the NFC North. Starting with the Minnesota Vikings. I have 10-7 for the Vikings this year. They had 13 wins last year, so a little bit of a drop down. I don't necessarily think they're worse. I don't think they got worse. I just think, looking at last year and this year, the schedule, the layout of the schedule, I ended up with it was a little bit tougher of a schedule. So I ended up with 10 wins here. And yeah, maybe I know a lot of people's point is they probably won't escape. All the games they barely escaped, they barely won. They probably won't happen again. And I'm definitely on board with that statement. Again, they won't, win that many one-score games or come from behind games. But I think a lot of people are going, well, they won all those games last year, so that means they're going to lose that many games this year or close to that many. I don't necessarily think that. Are they going to win that many one-score games? As many? Probably not. But it doesn't mean they're going to be in that many one-score games necessarily, and it doesn't mean they're going to lose that amount. So, yeah, I had 10 wins for them. The offense is still going to be just as explosive. Kirk Cousins, not a whole lot of Kirk Cousins fans out there, but we know what we're going to get from him. We know we're going to get solid play in the regular season. And overall, he's going to win games, maybe not prime time, maybe not all of the prime time games, but he's going to go out there and win games. Helps when he has some really good weapons there. With the best in football, Justin Jefferson, adding Jordan Addison is huge. Actually, as much as I love Adam Thielen, how great he was for the Vikings, I think Addison, even in year one, it will be a step up from what Thielen had last year. Running game, obviously, Cook to Madison is a little bit of a step down. I don't think it's as massive as people think. It's a pass-first offense. Madison has been actually very good when he has the opportunity to start. Offensive line, the question's the interior offensive line. It struggled a bit last year. That interior pressure gets after Cousins pretty quick. The tackle duo seems fantastic, really, but it's a very young and improving offensive line, so it should actually be better from last year. Will it be a whole lot better? Probably not, but it should be a step up. And then looking at the defense was arguably the worst in football last year, one of the worst. I look at it that way, too, though. They won 13 games last year. People say they won 13 games because they, barely squeaked out some games. They won 13 games with maybe the worst defense, one of the worst defenses in football. So that's something. And now you get Brian Flores in there. You get better at the cornerback position. Adding Byron Murphy was pretty big. So I think just being, more well coached could help this defense. There's no possible way they can be worse. But looking at, saying those things, looking at it that way, could they be just as good as last year as a 13-win team? I think, they could be. It's going to be tougher to win 13 games, though, mainly because of the schedule. Got them winning 10 games, and then should be a playoff team. But obviously in a battle with another team in the NFC North, that's the Detroit Lions, who I also have as a 10-7 team. They're tough. The Lions are actually very tough, in my opinion, because I guess a few things. One being, the main one kind of being Jared Goff. Before last year, no one really thought Jared Goff was good. People kind of gave him shit because he struggled. He's turned the ball over. And last year, he was pretty solid. Was he great? No, he was pretty solid, though. Which Jared Goff are we going to get this year? Will he continue to improve? Will other teams kind of figure out, how to game plan for, because Ben Johnson's great, the offense coordinator, but second year as the play caller, will teams start to figure that out, figure out how to game plan for Jared Goff? Which side is it going to be on? To me, it's going to be, or he could stay the same. So there's kind of three options there. To me, I think it's going to be tougher for Goff this year. I still have them winning 10 games, so I think it's a very good, improving team here. But it was tough. I was kind of in the 10-9 range there. I do like the schedule for them, not like the Vikings. The Vikings, I don't love their schedule. The Lions, I do pretty much, overall like their schedule. So that's pretty favorable for them. But yeah, you look at how teams played against Goff last year, a lot of man coverage, second most in football in terms of quarterbacks, how much man coverage they face. It's a little confusing to me. I think teams will throw a lot more zone coverage at him this year, and that could result Zone coverage in the NFL kind of creative. When you run it right and you're not playing the very best quarterbacks football, it could create turnovers. So Could we? It's realistic to think we could, see Goff, go back to turn the ball over a little bit more there. But it's a very talented team. It's very fast, very explosive. The offensive line is very good. They're growing when it comes to the coaching staff, when it comes to the players. They are growing. They're improving. The future is here. It's still coming on top of that. And they continue to get good young talent there. So offensively, it's really on Goff. And is he overall, talent-wise, skill-wise, going to get worse than last year? No. It's just about teams, opposing defenses game planning a little more properly against him, and that could happen. It could happen to anybody, almost anybody, really. Some of the great quarterbacks, there's really no answer. And obviously, Goff is not one of those great quarterbacks. Like I said, some questions with the Lions on, if they get over those things, they will be the new and improved Lions. If they don't, they could be the same old Lions. And as much as we love Dan Campbell, there's been some, I guess, questionable situational coaching the decision-making at the end of games. We saw it last year. We saw it the year before. So, and that cost them 1, 2, 3 wins. So that's the difference. If Campbell and company kind of get over that hump, that can get them a lot more wins there. And then defense did struggle last year, whether it was through the air or on the ground. They did get a lot better at the end of the year. So that's why that's maybe not as much of a major question. Will the defense be great? No, it won't be great. I do like the young talent they have. I mean, we can sit here and list off a lot of guys, but I think it's really led by, not counting the rookies coming in this year, but Hutchinson, and a guy like Kirby Joseph, who I think very highly of. But there's quite a few guys, obviously. But the defense should step up. But they would lose games because of the run defense. They would lose games because of the pass defense. So where are we at with that? But it will be better. I think the coaching will be better. I think the game plan and preparing, getting the team prepared and motivated, that fine for the coaching staff, for Dan Campbell and company. I think it's more so like situational stuff. I think Lions fans can agree. There's been some, timeout, clock management, decision making, late in games. Here and there, definitely got better, but that's something I'm watching for. I think it's mainly on Goff. Which Jared Goff are we going to get? And there's logic behind, a good Jared Goff, a better Jared Goff, or even kind of going back to the Jared Goff we knew before last year. I think there's an argument for all of that. But I do like the schedule for them. I do love the young talent they have. It is very evident, very obvious that they are improving. They're definitely improving. So kind of siding towards the 9, 10 win range, for them. But they're pretty rangy. There's some teams where it's like, and again, Twitter subscribers get my range, but I think the Lions, like, we could see like a very good Lions team, or we can kind of see not the same old Lions, but still kind of doing the same stuff they were in the past. So a team I'm very excited to watch for this year. So I think the Vikings and the Lions are kind of battling. The Vikings won it pretty easily last year. We saw how good the Lions got at the end of the year. It should be pretty interesting this year. So, yeah, we have the Vikings and Lions at the top of the NFC North projected. We're predicting. The Packers and the Bears, who we'll talk about in a second, they could be a little sneaky, maybe teams of the future. The Packers are hard to, label. Team of the future right now, where are they at? We'll talk about them next. Liquid IV, our sponsor, code GOAT, 20% off. They have some new sugar-free options there, so very cool. I swear by that stuff, too. Huge fan. And then GLD Shop, we have a code GOAT as well for 33% off. And then, again, check out our other content. But moving on to the Green Bay Packers, who are pretty tough to predict as well. But I have 8 and 9. Well, really not tough to predict. I think they'll be in this range. 8, 7, around that amount of wins. Could get a bigger range on that. Again, Twitter subs get our best and worst case scenarios, so you can see that range. But they're tough for 2 reasons. Well, one, their schedule, I think, the layout of the schedule. When I say tough schedule or easy schedule, I never really go by how many wins their opponents got last year, because they're not going to get the same amount of wins this year. There's going to be surprise teams. I feel like I'm the only one, too. I go off layout of the schedule. When do you play this team, that team? How does the season start? How does it end? Where's the bye week? Matchups. There's teams that maybe aren't that great, but do they match up well against them? So for all those reasons, I actually think the Packers have a very, very tough schedule. in my opinion. The layout of the schedule, the matchups. So that's a tough part. That's a tough part. So that's why I don't see them. And then going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, maybe that's why I don't see them getting a ton of wins. But 8-9, for the first year, for Jordan Love, first year starting pretty solid. Who knows, they went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. Could he be another one of those guys? You can't, it doesn't feel like it, but you can't really rule it out. He could be surprisingly good. I think too many people would judge him off that start against the Chiefs. That was last year, not this past season, the season before, where it was just very tough for them and they just blitzed the shit out of him. It's not going to be like that every week. There's going to be more of a plan, more prepared. But yeah, you look at the Packers that way where they have a tough schedule and they're going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. So if you look at it that way, it's like, okay, 6 wins maybe. I think a lot of people do that. Maybe they say worse in the division, but if you really sit down and look at it, they're pretty well coached. Maybe there needs to be a little better coaching when getting over the hump in big games and playoffs, whatever. But overall, I think it's pretty solid coaching. And then you look at, besides Jordan Love, the run game is legit. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, legit. It's a legit running game. It could be one of the very best in football. And actually, if you look at last year, some of the games they did not pull off that you thought they should have pulled off, believe it or not, even though they have Aaron Rodgers, if they would have geared more towards the run or not abandoned the run, they would have won more games, like plain and simple. And whether it was that coaching, was it Rodgers checking out the plays, do we know 100% for sure on every single one of those instances? We don't, but you kind of get an idea, maybe a little bit of both, a lot of both, maybe a lot of Rodgers. It almost sounds like I'm gearing towards they're better without Rodgers because they run the ball more. No, not what I'm saying. But the point is they have a strong running game that can win them games. Of course, there might be more stacked boxes now. Rodgers gone, and they're more of a run-first team, run-heavy team, you would think. So there's that, but it's still a pretty strong offense line if healthy, definitely when healthy, and a strong running game, So they can win with that. Obviously, what's Jordan Love going to be about? The receivers could be lacking. They did add some solid tight ends as well. Some of the young receivers could step up. So again, what's against the Packers, why they may win 6 games, you look at, Jordan Love could struggle, and the schedule's, the layout of the schedule is pretty tough. But why could they be good? Because they have a strong running game and they have experience. They're good coaching. But you look at the defense. The defense is legit. They were a little underwhelming to start last year. Like I thought they would be like a top 3, top 5 defense, and they were not bad. At the end of the year, they were pretty close though. They were balling. They figured something out. At the end of last year, a lot of young talent stepping up, and they didn't even have Rashawn Gary, who might be their best piece. Alexander maybe, or even Kenny Clark, you can say. But yeah, you could argue Gary, and they didn't have him, and they were starting to really get good. So now he's going to come back, and they can kind of continue where they left off. The D-line's really good. They've been drafting very well on defense. A lot of young players, the Georgia guys. Quay Walker, he got to control himself a little bit, but I thought he was really getting good. Like he was an upside, like a raw prospect as well. So he's going to be very good. We'll see more of Devontae Wyatt this year. The corners are really good. Safety, maybe, they drafted some guys that can move around in the secondary, but more so nickel corner. But Savage should be solid. But yeah, I guess losing Adrian Amos, which they were kind of shifting to different coverages really last year, and he didn't really fit that. So I guess understandable, but I guess a spot they could get. But I like the defense. They stop the run. They're very good against the pass. You look at, they get after the quarterback. If Rashawn Gary's in there, I think we'll see a little bit more blitzing. They stop the run. They defend the pass. It's a very good defense. The defense alone can win them games. The running game alone can win them games. So there's like one extreme to another with the Packers here. There's really like two sides, inexperienced at quarterback, Rodgers to Love, tough schedule, in my opinion, the layout. But then the running game and the defense, so they can win games off that alone. I have 8-9. The schedule is so tough. There was like a scenario where they had 7 wins. Coming into this, like just looking at the team, I actually thought I was going to have 8 or 9 wins. I did end up with 8, but it was kind of the 8 or 7 because of how the layout of the schedule was so tough. And the Chicago Bears actually surprised me as well what I ended up with, because I kind of judge teams, evaluate the teams, judge them based off their roster. And I thought I was going to have, I would say 5 wins, 5, 6 wins for the Chicago Bears. That's kind of where they're at in terms of me evaluating the team, because they're still young. They're still kind of a rebuild team. We even seen Tremaine Edmonds say it recently. He was excited to join a team rebuilding. They're still in that process. The coach is kind of getting in there still. I mean, it's a second year, but they're still in that process there. And, can Fields take that step up as a passer? It's mainly up here because he has the talent. He can throw the ball. But mainly, they could lose in a lot of shootouts in my head evaluating this roster because the pass rush. And they probably improved the run defense. They improved the interior D-line through the draft. The linebackers very much so in free agency. But they still could struggle stopping the run, not as much, but it was very, very, very bad last year. So how much? It's going to improve how much, but the pass rush is a huge thing. And on paper, the secondary, I said that last year too, the secondary is just underrated. It's better than you think, but it is so hard, if the quarterback has all day. It's impossible to cover for that long. So they're better than what it will look like, and I think they'll look okay, but they're better. Those players are better. It's just a tough job. And the same thing with the linebackers, much better. The linebacker unit being much better is going to help them. But behind that defensive line, which it'll improve over time, looking at next year, the year after, but their jobs are very tough. Like, are the linebackers they added, I mean, Edmonds the big one, are they going to be as good as where they were last year behind those defensive lines? Probably not. I think Edmonds will be better than he ever was on the Bills, like in the future. This guy's got a big, bright future, a lot of upside. So it's a guy I'm really excited about. Their jobs were made harder, though, going into this year. So I would, even though I love what they did, and the linebacker unit looks great on paper, it's like the secondary. Like, they probably won't look as good as they actually are because of that front. I really want, they will add an edge rusher. What's the date? June 24th. They still haven't added an edge rusher in free agency. Maybe they're waiting for that, the cuts in preseason or a trade possibly. But it actually could boost the Bears a ton adding that. But back to what I was saying, kind of valuing the roster. I still think the front office knows, like, they're fine with being in rebuild still. They're fine with having good draft picks next year, which of course they would like to win, but they know where they're at. For all those reasons, they do kind of still feel like they're 5-6 win team. But I look at the schedule then, which matters a lot when breaking down the record or predicting the record. And I end up with 7 wins. I actually think they'll start very well for multiple reasons. I like their schedule a lot in the first half of the season, but I think they'll start hot because of that, but because a lot of additions, a lot of new faces, but always dealing with the running quarterback early on is tough. Tough to game plan for. Are you in that shape to deal with them? So the Bears might be a tricky game plan, tricky to deal with early on. I do like their schedule. They have to start with the win against the Packers. They'll play the Vikings in Chicago early on. I have them winning that one as well. And there's just some games that they have an opportunity. Falcons, Commanders, those games like that where they have an opportunity. I'm looking at like 5-2. They could even start at. Maybe they're 3-1 at one point. So that's where I was at with the Bears. In the second half of the schedule, I'm going through this, and it's not like extremely, extremely tough. I just don't like the matchups. And again, I think teams will start to game plan or kind of prepare for the running quarterback a little bit. That's where Fields has to take that step up. Got to be a pass-first guy in today's NFL, even though he's electrifying. He does have the arm talent to be that. But so we'll see if he figures it out. He has an opportunity, especially adding DJ Moore, adding these guys, but I think teams kind of figure them out. They kind of come back down to earth the second half of the year. So I actually had them starting 5-2, and I ended up going through the scenario and I actually ended up finishing with them with 6 wins. And I'm kind of looking through it like, are they really, after starting 5-2, only going to win one more game? So I squeezed another one in there, but the first half Bears of the season I like. The second half, I think they could struggle a little bit, but it is a team of the future. It's a bright future if they use their ammo, their assets right. But I was surprised. So that's a 7-win season I think would be positive. I think that'd be good if they can pull off 8. I mean, the schedule's somewhat favorable. So, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome because it's a team of the future. That's a good sign. If they win like I'm not going to panic if they win 4 games this year. I know the fan base probably will. If they win 4 games, it's like, I don't think they're going to only win 4 games, but it's like, they're the team of the future. They drafted a whole bunch of players this year. They got a whole bunch of draft picks. They got a lot of young guys with upside they added to their team. They still have some big needs in important spots, but so I think it's almost a win if around this range. Actually, I mean, not all the fans are going to be like that. So, just mainly curious to watch Justin Fields and just taking that next step, becoming more of a passer rather than a runner because he has the arm talent. Like, he's a guy, if he figures it out, it's mainly up here. It's mainly processing things, getting the ball out early, and adding the new weapons could help. But it was also an issue at Ohio State. It doesn't show as much because it's a college level, but he had a lot of talent there too. But that was really his only issue then, and it's only issue now. So if he figures that out, like, to me, Justin Fields is either going to be great or he's going to be a bust. I don't think there's any, like, in between. So it's kind of like a boomer bust guy still, but the talent it's in there. Like, he has the traits. So I'm very excited to watch him grow and see where he could grow to this year. It's a big year to decide that, if he's the guy of the future there. We'll see if the offensive line can step up for him. The receiver unit definitely will. But I don't think we can blame the receivers anymore looking at how they look on paper. Pretty good young running group there. Foreman's pretty underrated too. So it's another team. I feel like I say this about almost every team, but it's a team I'm excited about this year. I think they could start hot, and then, can they continue off that? Maybe they don't even start hot. To me, they have to start hot. For them to have a good season, they have to start. It doesn't have to be extremely hot, but they got to start pretty well on the positive record, side of things there. So, excited about this division. I guess everyone's pretty tight in record. I do think it is a two-headed monster here. It's a race between the Vikings and the Lions. I do think that. I'm pretty confident with that, even though I ended up having the somewhat close in record there. But I do think it's really two teams. What if Jordan Love ends up the next Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers are going to be legit? It's tough. And if Justin Fields ends up figuring things out and being able to fully use all of his traits, through the air, we saw him with his legs, then he's going to be a great player. And the Bears could be pretty sneaky. It would be a tough game plan for. I don't know if the roster is fully there yet because they're young, but I think they could be really good if that's the case because it's just such a difficult game plan. And that is a big reason why I said they were going to start hot. So that wraps it up for my NFC North record predictions. We did the NFC East, NFC East. We did the AFC North. Now the NFC North, we're going to keep going through here. We have shorts coming out, kind of all division teams, things like that. A lot of fun. So more of this content leading up to the season and in-season content I cannot wait for. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Make sure you check out our sponsors, Liquid IV, GLD Shop. There's links pinned in the comments. We have codes. Make sure you check out our Twitter. You get best and worst case scenario, more bonus content along the way, involvement in our weekly pick show. If you subscribe on Twitter, if you follow us on Twitter, that's free. We appreciate you. A lot of news, rumors, updates there. Definitely worth it. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.